What if a nun vanished from behind locked convent walls, never to be seen again? What secrets did medieval convents hold? And what unexplainable events truly occurred between the 10th and 15th centuries? Number 5. The vanishing of Sister Isolde from the Abbey of St. Agnes. The year was 1287. Far removed from the bustling trade routes and the clamor of emerging cities, deep within the verdant valleys of what is now southern France, stood the Abbey of St. Agnes. This Benedictine convent, established centuries before, was known for its strict adherence to the rule of Saint Benedict, its exquisite illuminated manuscripts, and the serene, disciplined lives of its cloistered nuns. High stone walls, centuries old and weathered by wind and rain, encircled the abbey, creating a sanctuary of peace and devotion. Inside, life was a carefully choreographed rhythm of prayer, labor, and study, guided by the peal of bells marking the hours. Sister Isolde had been a part of this ancient rhythm for nearly 2 decades. She arrived at the Abbey of St. Agnes as a novice in 1269, a young woman of perhaps 18 or 19 years, brought by her noble family who sought a spiritual path for their youngest daughter. She was known for her quiet demeanor, her meticulous hand in the scriptorium where she spent many hours copying and illuminating sacred texts, and her devotion during communal prayers. She was not a leader nor a rebel, simply a diligent and unassuming member of the community. Records from the Abbey's daily register, known as the Liber Vitae Sanctae Agnetis, describe her as humble in spirit and diligent in duty. She seemed content with her life, embracing the solemn vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience that bound her to the abbey. Her days, like those of her sisters, followed an unvarying pattern. The first bell rang before dawn, summoning the community to matins. Hours were spent in silent contemplation, in the scriptorium where the scratching of quills was the loudest sound, or in the gardens tending to herbs and vegetables that sustained the community. Meals were taken in silence, often with a sister reading aloud from a sacred text. Vespers marked the end of the day's communal duties, followed by Compline, and then the grand silence, a period lasting until the following morning's matins, during which no nun was permitted to speak. The abbey's gates were locked at sunset and remained so until sunrise, with a single lay brother, Brother Thomas, responsible for their heavy bolts. The walls, reaching 2 stories high in places, were thought impenetrable. The evening of October 23, 1287, was like any other. The autumn chill had begun to settle over the valley, and the nuns retired to their cells after Compline, the last prayers of the day. Sister Isolde, like all her sisters, occupied a small, austere cell, furnished only with a narrow cot, a wooden chest for her few personal belongings, and a small crucifix on the wall. Her cell, located on the upper floor of the dormitory wing, had a single window, narrow and barred, overlooking the inner courtyard. It was not accessible from the ground without a ladder, and no ladders were stored within the courtyard. The disappearance was discovered at matins the following morning. The bell for matins rang shortly after 3 o'clock in the morning, a signal for all sisters to rise and gather in the chapel. Sister Beatrice, who occupied the cell next to Sister Isolde's, noticed her absence almost immediately. Sister Isolde was known for her punctuality, her small pale face always among the first to appear in the chapel's dim light this morning. Her space on the wooden pew remained empty. At first, the abbess, Mother Hildegard, attributed the absence to a sudden illness. Perhaps Sister Isolde had taken ill during the night and was unable to rise. After the matins service, a small group of sisters, including Sister Beatrice and Sister Agnes, were dispatched to Sister Isolde's cell. They found her cell door slightly ajar, which was unusual as nuns typically kept their doors closed if not fully latched out of habit. As Sister Beatrice gently pushed the door open, The sight that greeted them was unsettling in its ordinariness and its striking lack of presence. The cell was empty. Her cot was undisturbed, the coarse woolen blanket neatly folded at its foot. Her small wooden chest, normally kept under the cot, was still there, untouched. Her simple habit, the dark wool and white wimple she wore daily, was not laid out for the morning. In fact, nothing appeared to be amiss, save for the profound absence of Sister Isolde herself. No struggle, no sign of forced entry, no note, no indication of her hurried departure. The barred window remained firmly in place, its ironwork undisturbed. The small, heavy key to her cell door, kept on a hook just inside the doorframe, was still there. It seemed as if Sister Isolde had simply evaporated. Mother Hildegard was immediately informed. Her first action was to order a thorough search of the abbey grounds. Every cell, every cloister, the chapter house, the refectory, the scriptorium, the kitchens, the infirmary, the library, and even the seldom-used crypt beneath the chapel were meticulously searched. Nuns combed through the herb gardens, the small orchard, and the narrow pathways that wound between the buildings. The search extended to the inner courtyard, where the dew still lay heavy on the grass, pristine and undisturbed. No footprints, no dropped rosary beads, no lost prayer book belonging to Sister Isolde were found. The high walls of the abbey, designed to keep the world out, seemed to have held Sister Isolde within their embrace, yet she was gone. Brother Thomas, the lay brother responsible for the abbey's security, was questioned extensively. He confirmed that the main gates had been securely locked at sunset on October 23rd, and had not been opened until well after sunrise on October 24th, after the discovery of the disappearance. He had the keys to the outer gates, and no other keys existed. The gate was heavy, requiring considerable effort to open and close, and the creak of its hinges was famously loud. He swore on his life that no one had entered or left the abbey through the main entrance during the night. The few other entrances, smaller and used for deliveries, were also secured by heavy locks and bolts, and those keys were kept by the abbess herself. The news of Sister Isolde's disappearance spread quickly among the sisters, causing a ripple of unease. Whispers began to circulate. Some suggested a miracle, a divine rapture, though the church hierarchy generally regarded such claims with suspicion. Others, more grounded in earthly concerns, wondered if she had somehow managed to climb the walls, though the height and smooth surface of the stone made such a feat seem impossible for an unassisted individual, particularly a woman in her habit. There were no trees close enough to the wall for a jump, nor were there any ropes or ladders found near the perimeter. The local bishop, Bishop Armand of Montaigne, was informed. He dispatched a small delegation of clergy and 2 trusted secular guards to investigate. They spent days at the Abbey of St. Agnes, examining every detail. Questioned Mother Hildegard, Brother Thomas, Sister Beatrice, and Sister Agnes, and other sisters who had known Sister Isolde well. They re-examined her cell, searching for any hidden passages or secret compartments, though none were found. They walked the perimeter of the walls, looking for any sign of a breach, but the ancient stones stood solid and unbroken. The guards, seasoned in tracking and reconnaissance, found no trace, no scent, no telltale sign of an escape or an abduction. The ground outside the abbey walls, damp from the morning dew, showed no footprints other than those of small animals. The investigation yielded nothing concrete. Conclusion, if one could be called that, was that Sister Isolde had simply vanished from a locked, secure compound, leaving no physical evidence of her departure. All gates were secured, and no breach of the walls was found. Her whereabouts remain unknown. Life at the Abbey of St. Agnes slowly resumed its rhythm, but the mystery of Sister Isolde cast a long shadow. The sisters continued their prayers, their work, their devotions, but a quiet apprehension lingered. Her name was remembered in their prayers, and the vacant space in the chapel where she once sat served as a constant, silent reminder of the day a sister simply disappeared from within the supposedly impenetrable walls of the Abbey of St. Agnes. The Chronicle of the Abbey, which diligently recorded deaths, professions, and significant events, noted only a single stark entry for that year. October 24th, 1287. Sister Isolde, absent, no more, no less. To this day, no historical record, no letter, no legal document, no subsequent report has ever shed light on the fate of Sister Isolde, who became a phantom of the cloisters, a vanishing act that defied explanation in the heart of medieval France. Number 4. The silent departure of Sister Isolde from the Priory of St. Jude. The year 1351 was a time of immense turmoil across Europe. The Black Death, which had swept through the continent with terrifying speed in the preceding years, had left an indelible mark on every facet of society, including the monasteries and convents. Yet, even in such a calamitous era, some mysteries stood apart from the widespread suffering and death. One such enigma unfolded within the quiet confines of the Priory of St. Jude, nestled in the rolling hills of Yorkshire, England. This small Cistercian community, founded in the 12th century, had endured plagues and famines, maintaining its strict ascetic lifestyle and commitment to agricultural self-sufficiency. Sister Isolde, originally known as Isolde of Croft, had entered the priory in 1340, a young woman barely 16. Her family, minor landed gentry, had chosen the monastic life for her, a common practice in those times, driven by piety, practical economics, or simply the need to provide for all children. Isolde was known for her exceptional intelligence and her intense dedication to reading. Unlike many of her sisters who found solace in manual labor or simple contemplation, Isolde spent every permissible hour in the priory's small library, meticulously copying texts or poring over ancient manuscripts. Priory's Annals Priораtis Sancti Judae, a detailed yearly chronicle, noted her as having a mind keen as a falcon's eye, and a hand swift with the quill. She was particularly fascinated by the rare astronomical treatise held within the priory's collection, a somewhat unusual pursuit for a nun, though not forbidden. Life at the Priory of St. Jude was austere. The Cistercian order emphasized simplicity and manual labor, and the nuns spent their days tilling the fields, spinning wool, weaving cloth, and of course praying. Priory was largely self-sufficient, its stone walls providing a clear boundary between the consecrated life within and the often harsh realities of the outside world. The gatehouse, a sturdy structure, was guarded by a single lay sister, Sister Martha, whose duty it was to oversee all comings and goings, which were few and far between. Particular evening of Isolde's disappearance, September 10, 1351, was marked by a chilling autumn rain, a common occurrence in the Yorkshire Dales. The Black Death had begun to wane in England, but its shadow still loomed large. Priory had lost several sisters to the plague, leaving the community smaller and more subdued. Sister Isolde had attended Compline as usual, her place among the choir visible to all. Afterward, she retired to her cell, located in the dormitory wing adjacent to the priory's small chapel. Her cell, like those of her sisters, was Spartan, with a narrow bed, a small table, and a single window overlooking the priory's internal garden. This window was secured by a heavy wooden shutter that could be barred from the inside. The next morning, the call to matins, shortly after 3, revealed her absence. It was Sister Brigid, a kind older nun who often shared the task of lighting the chapel candles with Isolde, who first noticed Isolde was not in her usual place. Initially, concerns were low. Perhaps she felt unwell. However, when Sister Brigid went to her cell after matins, she found the door ajar and the cell empty. What made Isolde's disappearance particularly perplexing was the state of her cell. Her bed was neatly made. Her few personal items, a small wooden crucifix, a worn prayer book, were untouched. The most striking detail was the absence of her writing materials. Sister Ilara's inkwell, her favorite quill, and a small stack of vellum sheets, which she often left on her table, were all gone. This suggested not a sudden flight, but a prepared departure. Yet there was no indication of how she could have left the priory. The window shutter was barred from the inside, and the door, though ajar, showed no signs of forced entry. Prioress Mother Agatha, a woman of deep piety and practical wisdom, was immediately informed. Her first act was to dispatch Sister Martha to check the main gate. Sister Martha swore that the gate had been locked at sunset on September 10th and had remained locked until opened for a delivery of grain that morning. The heavy iron bolts were still in place. There was no sign of a breach, no ladder left leaning against the wall, no loose stones, nothing to indicate an external intrusion or an internal escape. The walls of St. Jude were high and well maintained, difficult to scale without assistance or specialized equipment. A thorough search of the priory grounds was conducted. Every nook and cranny was explored. The chapel, the refectory, the infirmary, the storage cellars, the library, and the fields beyond the inner courtyard. The vegetable gardens, damp from the night's rain, showed no footprints other than those of the sisters themselves. The small stream that ran through the priory lands was checked, but no trace of Ilara was found. It was as if she had simply walked out of existence, taking only her writing tools with her. The fact that her writing materials were gone fueled much speculation among the sisters. Some whispered that she had run off with a scholar or a scribe, perhaps someone she had corresponded with. But the Cistercian rules were strict. Correspondence with the outside world was heavily regulated and almost non-existent for a nun. Furthermore, how could such a meeting have been arranged and executed without anyone noticing, especially given the constant surveillance of the priory's gates? The Chronicle Ebericensis, a regional chronicle from York, later noted the singular and vexing vanishing of Sister Ilara, whose presence at Compline and absence at Matins defied common understanding. Prioress, reluctant to involve secular authorities in the affairs of the priory, initially kept the matter internal. However, after several days of fruitless searching and with no sign of Ilara, Mother Agatha was compelled to send word to the local sheriff, Sir Geoffrey Beaumont, and to the Bishop of York. Sir Geoffrey, accompanied by a small retinue, arrived at the priory within a few days. They meticulously inspected the priory, interviewed the nuns, and even examined the surrounding woodlands, which were dense and unforgiving. Sir Geoffrey's investigation was as thorough as possible given the limitations of the time. He noted the integrity of the walls and gates. He cross-examined Sister Martha about the gate's security. He even attempted to scale a portion of the wall himself to test its difficulty, concluding it was beyond the means of a single woman, unassisted, to surmount. The window in Ilara's cell was examined. Its bars were solid, and the interior wooden shutter, when examined, showed no signs of tampering. It would have been impossible to open from the outside, and if opened from the inside, it would have been highly difficult to close and rebar from the outside. No one within the priory reported hearing any unusual noises during the night. No shouts, no struggle, no creak of gates or footsteps. Prevailing theory among the secular authorities was that she must have somehow managed to slip away, perhaps with an accomplice who had breached the security and then sealed it again perfectly. Yet no evidence of such an accomplice was ever found. No stranger was sighted near the priory, no horse tracks near the walls, no signs of a secret rendezvous. The roads leading to and from the priory were sparsely traveled, and any unusual movement would likely have been noticed by local villagers or farmers. The Bishop of York, in his official report, lamented the bewildering absence of Sister Ilara, whose departure from the sacred enclosure remains shrouded in mystery. defying natural explanation. The entry in the Annals Praetoriatus Sancti Iudae for that year records simply, "On the 10th day of September, in the year of our Lord 1351, Sister Ilara, a diligent scholar, was found absent from her cell. Her whereabouts unknown. May God have mercy on her soul." The priory continued its life, but the enigma of Sister Ilara's departure, silent and unbidden, became a quiet legend within its ancient walls, a story told in hushed tones, a puzzle left unsolved in the annals of medieval England. Number 3. The cryptic disappearance of Abbess Heloise from the Convent of Our Lady of Sorrows. The year 1139 was a period of both spiritual fervor and political intrigue in the Holy Roman Empire. In a secluded valley in what is now modern-day Bavaria stood the Convent of Our Lady of Sorrows, a wealthy and influential Benedictine house. This convent was not merely a place of prayer. It held significant lands, managed considerable estates, and its abbesses often wielded influence beyond their cloistered walls, advising nobles and even emperors. It was a place of power as much as piety. Abbess Heloise was a woman of formidable intellect and iron will. She had been elected abbess in 1125, distinguishing herself with her astute management of the convent's vast holdings and her uncompromising defense of its spiritual independence from encroaching secular authority. She was known for her stern but fair leadership, her sharp mind, and her deep knowledge of canon law. Convents Regestrum Abbatisarum Nostrae Domini Dolorum, a detailed register of its abbesses, described her as a tower of strength and a beacon of wisdom, whose rule brought prosperity and spiritual rectitude to this sacred house. Unlike many abbesses who came from prominent noble families, Heloise had entered the convent as a young girl, an orphan taken in by the previous abbess. She rose through the ranks purely on her merits, a rare feat in an age dominated by lineage. Her cell, though still austere, was slightly larger than the others, featuring a small desk where she managed the convent's affairs and corresponded with various powerful figures. It was located on the ground floor of the abbess's lodging, a separate but attached building within the main convent complex, offering both privacy and security. Her cell had a single heavily barred window looking out onto a small private herb garden and a solid wooden door leading into the main corridor of the lodging. The evening of February 22nd, 1139, unfolded like any other. Abbess Heloise had attended Vespers and Compline, as was her custom, and had then retired to her private quarters. Before the grand silence fell, she had met with Sister Agnes, her trusted secretary, to discuss the next day's affairs, particularly a looming dispute over a land grant with a neighboring duke. Sister Agnes reported that the abbess seemed perfectly healthy, though perhaps a little preoccupied with the duke's recalcitrance. The last person to see Abbess Heloise was Sister Agnes, who bid her good night around 9 o'clock. Sister Agnes stated that the abbess's cell door was secured from the inside with a heavy wooden bar and a simple lock. The next morning, at matins, the abbess was conspicuously absent. This was highly unusual. Abbess Heloise was known for her unwavering punctuality and attendance at all offices. Prioress, Sister Ursula, immediately sent Sister Agnes to check on her. Sister Agnes found the door to the abbess's lodging slightly ajar, which was immediately alarming. Inside the door to Abbess Heloise's cell was found wide open, the wooden bar that normally secured it from the inside lying on the floor beside the threshold. The cell itself presented a scene of disquieting normalcy, yet profound emptiness. Her cot was neatly made. Her desk was tidy, with a stack of parchments and a single quill laid out, as if she merely stepped away for a moment. Her abbess's ring, a heavy silver band, usually worn on her hand, was placed carefully on her desk, beside a small, intricately carved wooden crucifix. The window, though barred, showed no sign of tampering. There was no struggle, no overturned furniture, no sign of forced entry. It was as if she had simply walked out, leaving her ring behind. The absence of the abbess's ring was particularly significant. This ring was not merely a personal adornment, it was a symbol of her office, a token of her authority. For her to leave it behind was unheard of, almost like a king abandoning his crown. The only items missing were her simple woolen habit, her wimple, and her sturdy leather walking shoes, which she occasionally wore for outdoor inspections of the convent grounds. This suggested she had dressed herself for departure. But where and why? A thorough search of the convent grounds was immediately initiated. Every building, every courtyard, every garden, every corner of the extensive complex was scoured by the worried sisters. The lay brothers who managed the outer fields were also pressed into the search, venturing into the surrounding woodlands and along the small river that bordered the convent's property. The outer gates of the convent were secured by heavy iron chains and bolts, overseen by Brother Gerhard, the gatekeeper. Brother Gerhard swore that the gates had remained locked throughout the night and had not been opened until the usual morning hours. He was a devout and honest man, and his word was generally trusted. Peculiar details of the abbess's departure caused immediate alarm and confusion. The unlocked outer door to her lodging, the internal bar removed from her cell door, the missing habit and shoes, and most crucially, the abandoned abbess's ring. These elements did not point to a simple runaway. They suggested a planned, internal, yet entirely enigmatic departure. The Annals Monasterii Bavariae, a regional monastic chronicle, later recorded the event as a bewildering enigma, the disappearance of a most pious and astute abbess, whose absence sent ripples of dismay through the diocese. The local bishop, Bishop Adalbert of Regensburg, was immediately notified. Given the abbess's prominent standing and the convent's influence, the bishop himself arrived within days, accompanied by a small retinue of secular knights to conduct a full investigation. The knights, accustomed to tracking criminals and rebels, searched the surrounding forests for miles, following every game trail and stream. They found no tracks, no discarded clothing, no signs of a struggle or a forced journey. The area around the convent was quiet and undisturbed. Bishop Adalbert meticulously questioned every sister, especially Sister Agnes, the prioress, and Brother Gerhard. No one reported any unusual visitors to the convent in the days leading up to the disappearance, nor any internal dissent or strife that might have precipitated such an event. The abbess had certainly made enemies through her defense of the convent's rights against powerful nobles, but there was no evidence of foul play or abduction. No ransom notes were ever delivered, no demands made. Her abbess's ring was left behind. All gates of the convent were found secured, and no breach of the walls or external intrusion was observed. The exact circumstances of her departure remain unfathomable. For decades, the convent of Our Lady of Sorrows lived under the cloud of this unsolved mystery. Succeeding abbesses ensured that the convent's defenses were reinforced, but the enigma of Heloise's disappearance remained. Had she been taken by forces unknown? Had she simply walked away from her powerful position? For reasons no one could comprehend. Chronicle Sanctae Maria, a more specific convent history, only notes her sudden and unexplainable departure, followed by the election of a new abbess. The story of Abbess Heloise, a woman of power who seemingly vanished into thin air from a secure medieval convent, remains a haunting tale forever etched in the shadowy annals of its past. Number 2. The ethereal vanishing of Sister Genevieve from the Abbey of St. Clare. The year 1428 was a tumultuous period in France, deeply embroiled in the 100 Years' War. Yet, tucked away in the serene countryside of Normandy, far from the battlefields, the Abbey of St. Clare, a Clarist convent, maintained its devout rhythm of prayer and communal life. Founded in the 13th century, St. Clare was known for its quiet austerity, its strict enclosure, and the profound spiritual dedication of its sisters, who lived simple lives of poverty, chastity, and obedience. Sister Genevieve had been a member of this community for just 7 years. She had entered St. Clare at the age of 23, having previously lived a quiet life as a miller's daughter. She was known for her quiet nature, her gentle spirit, and a certain ethereal quality that some sisters attributed to her deep piety. She was often seen in solitary prayer in the chapel or tending to the convent's small flock of sheep. The convent's Liber Chronicorum Clarissarum, a chronicle of significant events, described her as a gentle soul, oft lost in contemplation, a true daughter of St. Francis. Her cell, a humble space, was located on the ground floor of the dormitory wing with a single small window high up on the wall, allowing in little light. This window was covered by a wooden shutter that could be barred from the inside and was also secured by a metal grate, making it difficult to exit or enter. Her cell door, a sturdy oak panel, was secured with a simple iron latch from the inside. The dormitory wing had a common door, also secured with a heavy wooden bar from the inside, which was closed every night after Compline. The fateful evening of January 17, 1428, was particularly cold and windy. The wind howled around the ancient stone buildings, rattling the windows and shutters. Sister Genevieve attended Compline, as always, her quiet presence noted by Sister Marie, who sat beside her. After the final prayers, all sisters retired to their cells. The abbess, Mother Isabel, ensured the common dormitory door was barred from the inside, a nightly ritual that secured the sisters within. The discovery of Sister Genevieve's absence occurred at Matins the following morning. Sister Marie, noticing Genevieve's empty spot, felt a prickle of unease. Sister Genevieve, for all her gentle nature, was unfailingly present for all services. After Matins, Sister Marie, along with Sister Agnes, proceeded to Genevieve's cell. They found the common dormitory door still barred from the inside, exactly as Mother Isabel had left. This meant no one could have entered or exited the dormitory wing from the main corridor during the night. Upon reaching Sister Genevieve's cell, they found her door closed. Sister Marie called out but received no answer. After a moment, Sister Agnes gently pushed the door open. The cell was empty. Her cot, as in other cases, was neatly made. Her few personal belongings, a wooden rosary, a small worn prayer book, and a single illuminated miniature of St. Francis, were undisturbed on her wooden shelf. There was no sign of struggle, no disarray. The heavy wooden shutter on her window was still securely barred from the inside, and the metal grate was intact. The latch on her door was closed, as if she had simply walked through it. The perplexing nature of the disappearance immediately gripped the small community. How could Sister Genevieve have left her cell, given that the dormitory door was barred from the inside and her own cell door was closed but empty within, and her windows secured? The entire dormitory wing was a sealed unit. Mother Isabel was informed, and she personally verified the integrity of the dormitory door and Sister Genevieve's cell window. She found no evidence of tampering on either. The convent's security was renowned. The outer walls, thick and high, were maintained by the sisters and a few trusted lay workers. The main gate was a massive oak structure, secured with multiple bolts and an iron chain, always overseen by a designated gatekeeper, Brother John, a taciturn but diligent man. Brother Jean confirmed that the gate had been locked at sunset and remained so until sunrise, with no one entering or leaving. A thorough search of the convent grounds ensued. Chapel, the refectory, the scriptorium, the infirmary, the storage rooms, and the gardens were all meticulously examined. The stable where the convent's single horse was kept was checked, but the horse remained inside. No unusual footprints were found in the courtyard, which was damp from the night's earlier rain. The surrounding fields, too, were searched by the lay workers, but revealed no trace of the missing nun. The Gesta Normanorum, a collection of local historical anecdotes, later recounted the event as a miracle most perplexing of vanishing without cause or trace from a place of utmost security. The mystery deepened when Mother Isabel interviewed Sister Marie and Sister Agnes. They swore that the dormitory door was still barred from the inside when they went to check on Sister Genevieve. This meant that Sister Genevieve could not have simply walked out through the dormitory's main exit. It seemed as if she had simply vanished from inside her locked room, within a locked wing, within a locked convent. The abbess, deeply troubled, sent word to the local authorities and to the Bishop of Bayeux. The bishop, concerned by the unusual nature of the disappearance, dispatched a high-ranking cleric, Father Antoine, and a small detachment of soldiers. Father Antoine, a pragmatic man, examined the entire dormitory wing. He checked the walls for secret passages, though medieval convents were not typically built with such features. He examined the floorboards, the ceiling, and the window bars. He found nothing. The soldiers, for their part, meticulously searched the entire convent complex, again finding no signs of a breach or an escape. They questioned the sisters and Brother Jean, but their accounts remained consistent. No one saw or heard anything unusual, and all security measures were intact. The soldiers even inspected the roofs of the buildings, looking for signs of climbing or a forced entry from above, but the ancient tiles were undisturbed, and there was no way to access them from the ground without a ladder. The very concept of a nun climbing such a roof seemed ludicrous. The Annals Biocenses, a diocesan record, simply noted the event as Sister Genevieve found absent from her cell, her whereabouts unknown, no means of departure discovered, a matter of perplexing mystery. The Abbey of St. Clair continued its existence, but the enigma of Sister Genevieve's vanishing became part of its silent history. Was it a divine ascension, as some of the more devout sisters whispered? Was it a secret exit arranged with impossible stealth? No letter, no confession, no body, no trace of Sister Genevieve was ever found. Her disappearance from within a double-locked enclosure remained an inexplicable event, a ghostly vanishing from the heart of a medieval convent in war-torn France, a riddle that continues to echo through the centuries. Number 1. The abrupt cessation of Sister Margraith from the Convent of St. Bridget. The year 1098 saw the fervent religious zeal of the First Crusade sweep across Europe, inspiring devotion and radical change. Yet, far from the clamor of crusader armies, in the ancient forests of Saxony, nestled on the banks of a slow-moving river, stood the remote convent of St. Bridget. This small, unassuming Benedictine house, founded in the 9th century, was known for its strict adherence to the rule of St. Benedict, its quiet solitude, and its deep connection to the natural world. The sisters lived a life of rigorous discipline, growing their own food, tending their livestock, and dedicating their lives to prayer and study. Sister Margaret was a relatively young nun, perhaps in her late 20s, who had joined the convent 8 years prior. She was known for her exceptional skill in herbal medicine and her profound love for the surrounding forest. She spent many hours, with permission, gathering herbs and roots in the woods, often accompanied by a lay sister for safety. She was not known for flights of fancy or rebellious tendencies. She was, according to the convent's Liber Memorandorum Sanctae Brigidae, a detailed internal record, a quiet, studious sister, diligent in her duties, and knowledgeable in the healing arts. She was respected for her practical skills and her devotion. Her cell, one of the smaller ones, was located in the oldest part of the dormitory wing, near the convent's infirmary, where she often assisted the elderly and infirm sisters. It had a single, narrow window, secured by a wooden shutter, and a simple iron bar looking out onto a small inner courtyard. The cell door was a heavy wooden slab, secured by a simple iron latch from the inside. Evening of July 14th, 1098, had been unusually warm for the time of year. Sister Margaret had attended Vespers in Compline, and then retired to her cell shortly after sunset. She was seen by Sister Hilda, who was tending to a sick sister in the infirmary, as Margaretha entered her cell and latched the door behind her. The grand silence descended upon the convent, broken only by the chirping of crickets and the gentle rustle of leaves in the night breeze. The disappearance was discovered at Matins the following morning. Sister Agnes, who shared the duty of preparing the chapel with Sister Margaret, noted her absence almost immediately. Margaretha was usually one of the first to arrive. After Matins, Sister Agnes, accompanied by Sister Bertha, went to Margaret's cell. They found her cell door slightly ajar, the iron latch unfastened. The interior of the cell was perplexing. It was empty. Her simple cot was neatly made. Her few belongings, a small wooden crucifix, a rosary, and a worn leather pouch containing dried herbs, were all in their customary places. There was no sign of struggle, no overturned stool, no scattered books. The window shutter was securely fastened from the inside, the iron bar still firmly in place. It seemed as if Sister Margaret had simply walked out of her cell, leaving nothing but emptiness behind. What was even more unusual was the state of her habit. Sister Margaret's novice habit, a simpler version of the full nun's habit, was found neatly folded on her cot. This was the habit she would have worn daily. The Chronicle Saxoniae, a general regional chronicle, briefly mentions the puzzling and sudden absence of a nun named Margaret from the convent of St. Bridget, whose departure caused much consternation. The abbess, Mother Gertrude, a wise and experienced leader, was immediately informed. Her first action was to order a comprehensive search of the convent grounds. Every building, every cloister, the infirmary, the chapel, the refectory, the scriptorium, the stable, and the gardens were meticulously searched. The search extended to the small inner courtyard visible from Margaretha's window. No signs of a breach were found. No footprints on the dew-kissed grass. Convent's sturdy stone walls were intact, and the main gate, a heavy wooden structure, was secured by a single lay brother, Brother Ulrich, who slept in the adjacent gatehouse. Brother Ulrich was questioned. He swore solemnly that the gate had remained locked from sunset on July 14th until sunrise on July 15th. No one had entered or exited. He was known for his vigilance and his absolute devotion to the convent's security. The river which flowed near one side of the convent was too swift and deep for easy crossing, and no boat was missing. The fact that Sister Margaret's habit was left behind puzzled everyone. Nuns, particularly in such a strict order, did not leave the convent without their habit. If she had run away, she would surely have taken it, if only for disguise or identity. The absence of her habit suggested that she had not intended to leave in her daily attire, or perhaps had changed into something else. But what? And why would she have clothes other than her habit within the convent? Such possessions were forbidden. This detail made the idea of a simple escape seem less plausible. The abbess, in consultation with the prioress, Sister Hildegard, decided to expand the search to the surrounding forest. Given Sister Margaret's familiarity with the woods, it was thought she might have gone there. A small party of lay brothers and hired local villagers, accustomed to navigating the dense woods, spent days searching the ancient trees and winding paths. They found nothing. No dropped rosary, no piece of fabric, no sign of a struggle, no discarded tools, no footprints. The forest, usually full of signs of life, remained silent regarding Sister Margaret. The Monasterium Germaniae Chronicon, a collection of German monastic records, simply lists, year 1098, Sister Margaret of St. Bridget departed mysteriously. The local bishop, Bishop Hermann of Halberstadt, was eventually informed. He dispatched a representative, Father Gregor, to investigate. Father Gregor conducted his own interviews, examined the cell, and walked the perimeter of the convent. He found no evidence to contradict the abbess's account. He confirmed the integrity of the walls and gates. He inquired if Sister Margaret had any enemies, any unfulfilled desires, or any secret attachments. The sisters, however, affirmed her quiet, devout nature. She had no known family remaining outside the convent, and no known reason to leave. Father Gregor's final report to the bishop was terse. Sister Margaret, last seen on the evening of July 14th, 1098, was found absent from her cell on the morning of July 15th, 1098. Her habit was found in her cell. No means of departure were identified. All convent security measures were found to be intact. Her current whereabouts are unknown, and her dépit intact. The convent of St. Brigid never truly recovered from the shock of Sister Margaret's disappearance. The remaining sisters continued their duties, but a pervasive sense of unease settled over the community. Her name was quietly removed from the daily roster, but her absence was felt. The image of her neatly folded habit, left behind on her cot, became a haunting symbol of the inexplicable. The mystery of Sister Margaret, who seemingly vanished into thin air from a secure convent, leaving behind a very symbol of her identity, remains a poignant and unsolved riddle from the heart of medieval Saxony, a silent testimony to secrets that the ancient world carried within its walls and forests